right, cool. We'll just go ahead and get this started. Hello, everybody. Let's see. Okay, so does everybody know why they're here? Heck no. Monica's like, no, I don't know.
I
Just
have
in
no
class
idea. I
today.
just heard you jumping on a class, so I just logged in.
You know what? See, though, I love that. It doesn't matter what's being taught. Jump on a class. You can always get nuggets out of it.
Yep.
You know, I mean, if you're sitting at your desk, if you're doing pop buys, I mean, that's, you know what we call that? Gina Marie, what's that called?
Multitasking, net time.
Net time. Yeah. I don't like the word multitasking. I like net time.
I know.
It's like, how many things can you do with, like, if you're doing this, what else can you be doing at the same time to be efficient? So I think okay. So first off, you're here for lead generation, pick 3 and go all in. Right. So, and you know, I never really thought about it that way till I was out cruising around. Actually, I was not even in this town. And I'm like, you know, I'll pop into open houses just for the heck of it, to talk to people, to meet people, just to shake hands, chat it up about real estate. And it never hurts to know more people. And just, you know, I love asking questions of people. So I popped in this open house, and well, I mean, it was somebody I knew. It was actually in Martinez. And Monica, you know this person, Frank Bermudez. And Frank Bermudez and I have done some amazing deals together. He's a fantastic agent. And, you know, it was interesting because I'm like, Frank, you've been doing this for a long time. You're pretty successful. And here you are, you know, I see open house signs everywhere all the time when I'm out driving around, and you're out here in Martinez doing an open house. You know, why are you doing an open house? He says, well, Wes, my philosophy is pick 3 and go all in. I'm like, what? He's like, pick 3 things, 3 lead generation ways, and go all in on them. And I've never stopped. And, you know, I was like, that's friggin' brilliant. I love that. I'm thinking, well, gosh, you know, I mean, and I think this was actually was it last year or the year before last? It might have been the year before last. And I had realized with my word intentional, I'd never been intentional, but I've kind of been doing that all along. Right. So, and I've always had this belief that as real estate agents, we have 4 job duties, right? Or 4, you know, there's 4 things that would describe what we should be doing or what we do. And one is lead generation. Second one is showing properties or going on listing presentations. Third one is negotiating contracts. And the fourth one is delivering keys and picking up a check. Right? Would everybody agree with that? It's really that simple. We overcomplicate it. And Monica, especially because you're here and you've been doing this the longest and we're partners, chime in anytime. I love interactive. I really think there's one other thing. I think there's 5 things, and one is honing your craft. So, and I think that's crucial, like showing up on these classes. Here's the interesting thing. Going on showing appointments and listing appointments and negotiating contracts and delivering keys and picking up a check. None of that happens without the first one, lead gen. So with that, what is lead generation?
Getting new clients.
It is. That's fantastic. Good. I mean, good. There's no wrong answer. Getting new clients. So let's talk about all the ways you can lead generate. What are some of the ways you can lead generate? Somebody give me one.
Farming or walking your neighborhood.
Excellent. Somebody else give me something.
Zillow.
Networking groups.
I heard Zillow. I heard networking groups.
Popeyes.
Popeyes, yes. What else?
Open houses.
Absolutely. What else?
Sphere of influence.
Social media, yes. And then somebody else chimed in there. All I heard was social media.
Also sphere of influence.
Sphere of influence, yep. Actually, I'm going to call that database. Database and sphere of influence. SOIs is what we usually refer to that as. That is some of them, but there's a lot more. I like the pop buys. I look at that as part of your database, or that's a function you do with that. Here's some ones that not everybody talks about. Most people don't do them. That's why they don't talk about them. Well, one is advertising, print advertising, but that's kind of like a dinosaur that's antiquated, that's done. However, that was for us, that was a big thing for a long time that we built our business on and our reputation on, was print advertising. You know, that was back when we did contracts with hammers and chisels, and you know, before this great, wonderful social media and massive web stuff. There's also door knocking in a farm. There's also cold calling, and there's also expireds and for sale by owners, FSBOs, if you've heard that term before. So basically, a lot of things on there. And here's the thing: I've said this. It's talked about in the book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. You know, lead generation is it's like going to a smorgasbord. There's a lot of things you can do, and I really believe that I've always believed you mass appeal has no appeal. In other words, I'm not going to do all of them. That just makes no sense, and you know, you're really deluding yourself. So I've always picked three. Well, I've never intentionally picked three, but I'm telling you, when I look back over my career after Frank told me that, it's like, oh my gosh, that is literally what I've done since day one. You know, and since day one, for me, it was print advertising, database, and open houses. And then it was for a while, I added in cold calling to for sale by owners and expireds. And then, you know, so there's all these different ways. And, you know, I've done every one of these, and I can tell you what my return on investment was with all, or what the numbers were as far as how many doors I had to knock, how many calls I had to make, how many people had to come through my open house, because I did those things consistently enough and I tracked the numbers. And at the end of the year, I'd always look at how many deals did I do? I'd source the business, right? You always, at the end of the year, you always want to source your business. And always keep track of where did your business come from? When you have a lead, where did that lead come from? That is probably one of the most important things, is to always be tracking your business first and foremost, actually. Anybody want to know why you do that? Melissa?
That way you don't waste your time putting money into things, the resources into things that aren't actually producing you success, however you want to define that.
100% perfect answer. Couldn't have said it better. It's, you source your business at the end of every year to see what's working, what's not working, you know, and where do you want to, because here's the reality. It's never too late to change or shift. Maybe, you know, maybe you're farming and you're getting nothing from it. So you might want to switch to door knocking, or actually, if you're in a farm, you probably should door knock it a little bit too. That's really a healthy thing to do. That's almost a win-win. When you're mailing it and farming it, the door knocking is almost more of a warm knock versus, you know, just walking into a neighborhood that you've never farmed before and just starting to knock on doors. So those are all ways of lead generation. Does anybody have any questions on the different way? Yeah, Melissa.
Thought of another one, which I'm not sure, it could kind of fall within one of those of just like doing events, where you could do events that kind of intermingle with your networking, or events that intermingle with your farming. So they could kind of like group them together.
Yep. So I mean, just so you know, like for the last 2 years, my main three have been database, networking, Zillow. Zillow is no longer it. We have a big enough of a team. I don't have to take calls anymore. So now I'm going, okay, what do we do here? And I've always kind of put pop buys under the category of, you know, my database. That's because working your database, you need to have a plan to work the database, right? And I got to tell you, every year when I sourced my business, anywhere from 80 to 90% came from my database or center of influence. Yet I think we work that. I think most people pay less attention to that than anything else. It's almost like it's more fun to hunt for the new business, right? Yet I look at a database as a gold mine, and I still don't work it enough. Yet most of my business comes from that. And I always think, gosh, if I just get more intentional and work that harder, how much more results could it produce? And, you know, just so you know, I'm not here to dispute anything. Whatever you believe is what's going to work for you. I know people that have thousands of people in their database, right? And they swear by that. That's not wrong if you believe in that. I believe in quality over quantity. I've done over 1,000 transactions in my career. My database is about 180 people, maybe pushing 200 now, because I'm always cleaning it. I'm always scrubbing it and going, I don't want to mass. I would rather spend more intentional time on a select few. Somebody once said, and I think you heard me say this at the beginning, mass appeal has no appeal. Again, that's my own personal opinion and what has worked for me. I'm not saying a huge database is wrong, as long as you're working it, you have a system for it. So, yeah, review all your sources and knowing that it's a numbers game. So what the premise of, you know, your leadership team this year is going to be picking 3 and letting us know what 3 and what you need. And all of our classes are basically built around helping you, and all our support and tools are around helping you in each one of these. But it's literally pick 3. We don't really have a whole lot as far as cold calling and expireds and FSBOs, but I get those scripts anytime. I have access to them. I know most people probably aren't going to do that and don't like to do that. You know, but again, maybe somebody does. It's not off the table, and I'm more than happy to get the scripts, help anybody, role play with them anytime, because I literally used to do that. I would tell you that, in my opinion, there's almost nothing better than Zillow for lead gen other than your database. I would say database first always, but definitely Zillow. And why do I say that?
Well, in our situation,
I can't hear. I don't know if Misty's trying to talk, but you're muted, which thank you for that.
There you
Go ahead, Misty. Let me see if I can hear you now.
So Zillow people are actually in the market. Like they're looking to do something. Where sometimes we're working our database, we're just waiting for that right moment for them to buy or sell or have questions. Where somebody at Zillow, they're calling with questions to buy, sell, something to do with real estate. Right?
Yep. Perfect. Melissa, you got anything to add to that?
I had a good thought and then it's gone.
I hate it when that
I will
happens.
share.
So, you know, just some food for thought. You know, when you look at everything, go ahead, Melissa.
I remember.
I saw that thought come back.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, with our situation, Zillow doesn't cost us money. It costs us time. So, you know, and because we have that huge benefit. So that's how you got to weigh out how you're dispersing your select 3. This one might be more time consuming, and then others might be more financially consuming.
Great point. Thank you. I love all this interaction. You guys all coming up with fantastic points. You know, when I said it's a numbers game, it literally is. I can tell you, when I was at the top of my game and doing open house, I did a lot of open houses. And for me, an open house was, and I did them Saturdays and Sundays. I did them both days. So I'm giving up a weekend or giving up a day, I'm making it work. And I would door knock a few doors up and down and invite people. You know, but you got to figure, prepping for an open house, putting out signs and doing a little bit of door knocking, that's almost a full day. And you never know whether somebody's coming through that door or not. You don't know if they're qualified or not, if they're just kicking tires or not, or if they saw this house, you know, online and really do want to see it. Back in the day, they were following signs. You hope they were interested, you know, you hope they were, but you know, I did a lot more in Discovery Bay when I first started out my career. And a lot of times it was just neighbors looking all the time. They had nothing else to do. Hey, let's pop in here. So you're giving up a whole day. You never know how many people are going to come through. But I can tell you, at the top of my game, when I was on my game the best, knew my scripts, was just on point, it was about an average of 37 people to one contract, to one escrow, which isn't bad. Actually, that's pretty good numbers for an open house, you know, but I was very consistent at doing them too. And by the way, any of these that you do, consistency is always going to be the key. Always. You know, farming, I've done lots of farming. Go ahead, Monica.
I was just gonna, I just was gonna weigh in on the open house thing. You know, you spoke earlier about sourcing your business. And that's something that I've done since the very beginning. When I just started, I sourced all of my business. My first year in business, the bulk of my transactions came from open houses, right? Because I was new to the area. I was trying to build the database. I was, leveraging out my sphere of influence. So open houses was a great thing. But I will tell you, I used to buddy up on open houses a lot with a colleague from my office. And the reason why I did that is two. First of all, because back then, and I think we're heading this direction again, the open houses were so insanely busy that it was hard to navigate it just by yourself. You can also do it with a lender too. That's not a bad idea either. However, I liked doing them with a colleague because invariably somebody would connect with those people. It was either going to be me, or back in the day, it was Jennifer Tiscarino. She and I buddied up. And so we just had different pull from people. And so we were extremely successful at open houses. Just throwing that out there because I think it's a really good way to go. And I used to door knock 50 houses around the open house and give them an invitation to come to the open house. So.
Great points. I
An invitation.
never took people with me, or very rarely did I take people with me to an open house. I like the hustle and the fast pacedness of it when it was busy. And that was just me. I did do a lot of invites because, again, to me, if I'm going to take the time to do an open house, I'm going to try to make it worth my while. And I also never put out any less than 10 signs because I'm there. I want to get as many people through that door because, again, I knew my numbers, right? The more people I get through that door, the sooner I'm going to get a deal. It's a numbers game. Now, I don't care to do open houses anymore. I don't do open houses anymore. I might once in a blue moon when I first list something, if it's a pretty special property, just for the heck of it. Not always sure what I'm trying to achieve when I do that. But it's usually not trying to get a client. I think Zillow is one of the easiest and best ways. I mean, Zillow, here's the thing. If you are average, if you look at average would be 5% conversion rate. That means for every 20 calls, you got a deal. If you're average, if you're good, 1 out of every 10, you're nailing it. And you don't have to spend time.
Here's what I found.
Setting up signs and doing all the things and inviting people and kill a whole Saturday. Although realistically, I know a lot of people might beg to differ. Zillow's a grind. It's a hustle because, somebody calls, you got to rush out. You don't know how legit they are till you get there, or if they are. But at the same time, I think it's a way to, get in front of more people. My opinion, and control it a little better. However, I'm not against open houses. I think for, newer agents or anybody, well, even seasoned agents, if you're good in front of people, that's a good way to be at one spot and get in front of a lot of people in a set amount of time. But it also means giving up a Saturday or a Sunday or a Thursday evening. Now Zillow, if you're on Zillow, that means you're kind of glued to your phone and it's a little nerve-wracking sometimes, and you answer it and it might just throw your dinner off or whatever. So there's neither one's right or wrong. They're just different ways. I think those are, in my opinion, other than your database, I think those are two of the best ways because they're the ways that get you in front of people. And for me, if it's not my database, and you keep seeing Monica do this, she's legitimately, it's about getting in front of people. Yeah, it does depend on your lifestyle, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's true. And you'll hear me talk a lot about trying to achieve work-life balance. It took me a long time to get there. I had a very unhappy family, but was making a lot of money. But all I did was work. And so it is important, your lifestyle, you have to set some sort of parameters and really focus your energy in maybe smaller chunks of time. But back to the open house thing, I just was remembering that I used to, and maybe everyone's doing this, I don't know, but I used to bring a list of like the properties that were available on the market, like a list. And I would literally show property after my open house. I used to do that all the time. And it worked really well because I'd be like, well, you know what, maybe not that one, but how about this one? And if you've got your computer and you can show them properties right there. But I used to have it was before we really had like iPads to hang out and show our clients. I used to have a printed list of everything that was happening in that area.
It's funny you say that, Monica. What I did was I printed out, if I was in Discovery Bay, depending on where I was, if I was on Deepwater, if I was in, the lakes, wherever I was, I'd print out a list of everything active, staple my card to it, hand it to them. So again, kind of like Zillow, I'm trying to add value. I'm giving them something to walk away with, not just my, oh, here's my card, call me. Nope, here's something of value. You know, and I would always say, so when you're driving around and you see a house, and I would actually put pendings in there too. So I'd say when you're driving through the neighborhood and you see a house and you're wondering, you know, the stats on it or how much it is, just look it up. So, and actually I would do it by address. So it'd be very, you know, so it'd be very easy for them to find, you know, if they're on Main Street, okay, I can go right to the ends versus trying to go through the whole list every time they see a house and figure out, you know, what's the price and where's it at. So just some tips and tricks, and thanks, Monica. That's fantastic. Here's the reality. We went over all the things. It is picking three and being super consistent. Finding a farm, I don't think that's a bad thing. Know that that is a long-term thing. You know, sometimes you get lucky. You mail something out, you get a call back, or you get somebody responding. But it really, if you're going to farm, in my opinion, you're committing to an area of a couple hundred homes for years, because it can take years. And just, yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
I was just gonna say, so I started, you know, Jeff told me about that, and he told me, you know, bank on committing to at least a year. It could take 9 months to a year before you even see any communication back and forth, you know. So he connected me with CoreFact, and you know, the cool thing about that one is they scan, everyone has a QR code. It's fancy stuff these days. So every house has that QR code. So as soon as they scan it, I get a message saying, you know, Amanda at blah, 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 scanned her QR code. And so I'm now on, I think I'm on month 8 or 9. And I've gotten several people that actually click on it. And what I do initially is I write them a personal note, just like, thanks for, you know, quick little thing, nothing's depth, no data, nothing like that, just a thank you. And I'm a real person. And I drop it off at their house because it was in my neighborhood. And then now I'm starting to get like seller lead generations from them, and I'm on month 9. So we'll see.
It is fantastic.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? What is that?
CoreFact is probably one of a billion different services that they do an auto mail. You send them what addresses or what neighborhood you want to send these postcards to. You pick out a design for each month. They do the whole year at one time, so it's already picked out. And then obviously you can make changes if the market shifts and you need to say like, oh, this is a hot market, and you're like in foreclosure status situation, you can change them last minute. But they pre-select for the whole year. You tell them like, my farm is 311 houses. It's a big one. And they put your picture, they do your brand color, they do whatever your personalization is on there. And then they send it out for you the same time every single month. So if your life has hiccups, then no matter what, it's getting sent out. And so that's where I started doing it on my own, and then, you know, life hiccups. So I'm like, I just need to sign up for the service. That way I know I'm consistent, because the only way it would pay off is if it was consistent. So that's kind of the general gist of it. But I liked the fact that you can personalize it. You can add in your photo, you know, and it's all taken care of for you. And then the fact that you get instant notification if someone clicks on it. All they have to do is scan the QR code and you're immediately connected with that person. And it's linked to my Chime, so everything goes through Chime, and then it keeps their database or anything that their personal information about the property. So
Melissa, what was the cost of that? What was
it's called cost. It depends on how many, just like any mailer thing. It depends on how many you're doing at a time. I want to say mine's 311. And I think it comes out to like $250 a month.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's so what, Christine, what I would say to that response is start smaller. Start with 100. Again, you know, there's no, and then expand as you, you know, you're almost, first off, a couple things, but first I want to say thank you, Melissa. That was great. Great share. Core-Fact, definitely a huge fan. I used to use Core-Fact when I was doing farming. And I'm a huge fan of that. Core-Fact's been around a long time. It's plug and play, like Melissa, and that's kind of the trick to what we do, is making as much stuff plug and play. But Christina, and I'll say this to everybody, actually, you want to, this is a business, and you're going to invest in your business, right? So it's kind of coming up with a budget of how much you're going to invest, and then playing kind of like red light, green light. As you make more money, you can invest more money in the business, and we all should be putting money back in our business. That's how businesses grow. So yeah,
and it's all a business write-off. So
yep.
If you have questions, I'm sure all these expertise people can help you. I just have experience from the direct sales world, but pretty much everything you do is a write-off.
Everybody can add value, and that's why I love doing these interactive. You know, everybody has something to add and a different experience, and I love that. So since you took us down that,
another
Okay,
question. So when you're doing farming, how do you recommend where an agent should choose to farm? Melissa and Christine live in the same neighborhood.
You missed it.
No, Miss.
I mean,
But don't worry,
Misty,
I'm
sorry,
not gonna
the
farm
other
like
end.
But no,
Well,
I mean, like
Monica-
for us, we talk about it, but I'm not gonna farm.
Well, I was just,
The-
well,
not
but
our
I'm curious, like, how do you pick that?
So your title company,
Question. The title company will tell you certain things, right? Like they'll give you demographics. I mean, like a lot of information, like who you're targeting. They'll give you a whole spreadsheet, when their house sold, how long they've been in their house. A lot of information is how you.
they
can
will
really
also
dive in.
they'll give you the turnover rates in that neighborhood, and they can help you identify if that's a neighborhood that you would want to be investing in. Because if they don't have any turnover and you're going to be saturating that market trying to get some business, it's pointless. But there's a certain metric that they use, and there's a certain percentage of turnover that they have established is a good amount in order to like invest in that. So almost any title company that I can think of will do that for you. Super, yeah, they have super great information.
great,
And the other
great.
thing I was going to add to that, Monica, is that they'll tell you the turnover rate, but they'll also tell you if another agent is farming in that area. So you're not, again, just throwing money out to, the wolves.
That's where being consistent comes into play, because most agents may throw something out there. The question is, are they doing it consistently? And consistency, in my opinion, wins the game. It's a long game, not a short game. Back to your question, Gina Marie, Monica hit it pretty much. I would utilize a title company. I would pick a neighborhood that I want. First off, you have to ask yourself a couple questions. Well, usually, and Misty, there's no, usually if somebody comes to me and says, I want to start farming, where should I farm? Usually your neighborhood is a good place to start, not always the right place to start either, though. But that's where you typically are hanging out at, and people know you more, and you're more likely to be recognized, and it'll take less time, I think, potentially there. But again, to Monica's point, you always want to know who's in there marketing and how much are they marketing, and then make sure, don't compete with them, crush them. If they're marketing there once a month, market there twice a month. And that's just the competitive side of me, that I'm gonna crush somebody. I'm not gonna compete with somebody. But
And then I was
those are
just going to say, if they live in the same neighborhood and they decide to team up, that's another option, and split the cost. That's what Lisa and I are doing, since we're in the same exact neighborhood. We literally live across the street from each other, that we're going to farm it together, and we're going to do, different things and come up with a budget together and split the costs. And then just kind of, instead of being competitive with each other.
And if you're doing a neighborhood, especially a neighborhood where you live, I would advise, don't just do mailers, make it fun, own it. Do a neighborhood garage sale once a year. Do things, do an Easter egg hunt at the park in the middle of your neighborhood. Just things that can get you visible and get you in front of people and bring value to family. That's huge, you guys. Absolutely huge. Any other questions on farming? I want to go through a couple. I just want to go through a couple of these, and that was
Yeah, I
all
just
great.
wanted to ask, just kind of wanted to point out another thing is lenders can help you with flyers and stuff too, co-branding, right? For the costs and offset costs of door knockers and things like that.
Yes, I would say, you know, that, and that's a great point. You can always team up and co-brand. Lenders love to do that. Little bit of a hint, you know, just make sure you're very transparent with lenders. If you're going to be teaming up with one lender, you know you got to be kind of all in with them, or just say, hey, I'm going to partner up with you. I've got one other, you know, person I'm with, you know, just be transparent. If you are, there's been agents who have totally used and abused different realtors, and believe me, that doesn't, there's no longevity in that game. You know, there really
That was
isn't.
going to be my question is, you know, if you have, you know, we got Delmy now that's kind of on board for the year, and like, how do you pick? Because we got to have more than one lender in a sense to go to, just kind of like Monica and you guys were talking about, in the sense of personalities and clicking. How do you decide, like, is this one farm going to be, I'm going to co-brand with this one lender, and then this other avenue of, you know, say your 3 type of things that you're going to do, your open house, and for example, you're going to try to partner up with that lender specifically for open houses, or do you just try to pick one and do everything with that one?
I'd love to go ahead, Monica. I'll take a shot at it afterwards. I love that question.
Yeah, I think that it's fair and realistic to partner with someone on a specific project. So maybe it's that farm. I think that what it really boils down to is having like a really good conversation with the lender and making sure that you guys vibe. That's like one of the most important things, because you're going to be referring back and forth, hopefully. But no, there's nothing wrong with, you know, sharing a farm with one lender and then doing something with someone else, as long as you're transparent, you know. And most people can understand that. It's hard to go all in, but if you're really loving somebody and they're your person, like, go all in with them if that's what you want to do, you know.
Yeah, almost since I've been in this, I've had a philosophy. I kind of work in things of 3 almost always, if you haven't noticed. And I've always been very transparent and very upfront. I work with 3 people at a time. I always have a roster of 3 lenders. There's always going to be a number 1 lender, and I let them know that, hey, you're my number 1 go-to, but you know, you're not necessarily going to get all the business. I have a number 2, and number 3 is usually kind of on the bench a little more. But if somebody messes up, then, you know, they might be off the team, and everybody moves up a notch, and somebody else comes in as a 3rd spot. And I make it very clear, you know, if somebody thinks they're going to get all my business, that's bad business. That's an unrealistic expectation. You know, how about just doing the best you can? We'll work together, and you know, just like any lender, you know, they're going to be working with other agents. You know, they're going to be, if they have business, they're going to be referring it out to other agents, and who gives them, you know, probably who feeds them the most. I mean, I also think our business should be reciprocal. If you're doing business with somebody, there should be an expectation that, hey, look, you know what? I don't expect all your business, but I'd love it if you could, you know, throw me a bone, or give me, you know, if I could expect one lead out of you a year. Super realistic expectation. So, you know, great question, Melissa. Thank you. And great questions, Gina Marie. Super appreciate that feedback, or the digging a little deeper on these. But without a doubt, just being transparent, best thing you can do. And if somebody has a problem with you telling them that, you know, you've got 2 lenders that you use, or 3 lenders that you use, they're probably not a good fit. And they're probably not even doing that well. And they're not going to be around that long, because it's, you know, our culture is that of an abundant mindset, right? You know, thinking that you're going to have all of somebody's business, or you don't want someone else involved, that's a scarcity mindset. That's a fear-based mindset. And that's just a dangerous mindset, in my opinion, you know? Anyway, so great. I think we nailed a lot on farming. Let's talk about, I'll talk about networking groups real quick. You know, there's a couple networking groups out there. And like BNI is the main one everybody knows about. I'm in one, DMP, Delta Networking Partners. I think I've been in that for 9 years now. And by the way, those networking groups are kind of cool, because what they do is there's one person from different categories. So in those groups, there's never more than one realtor, which is kind of cool. And it's about reciprocating business. what, and if you can't get into a group, maybe, the spots open up from time to time. Start your own group. Start your own group. I know a few people who have done that. I know a lender who did that in Discovery Bay. But there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have to be a corporation. It doesn't have to be a nonprofit. You can just start your own networking group. But I would, from a networking standpoint, again, that's been a good source of business for me for the last 9 years. And by the way, I want to give Melissa major kudos because I think it was my first month in that group. Melissa was in DMP for something else 9 years ago when I came into that group. And Melissa gave me my first referral in that group in less than a month. So thank you, Melissa. And here we are, still friends, still working together. It's pretty friggin' awesome. But they do work. And the thing about them is you're building relationships, because those groups you should be meeting once a week. And I still get referrals from people who have been in that group and out long time ago. That, but again, consistency, guys, did you hear me? I've been in that group for 9 years. That's a long time. Consistency. Yes, and active. I've gotten business out of Rotary. That was never my intention in Rotary, and I didn't work it for that reason, actually. So I didn't maybe get as much business as some people were there for that reason. I was there to serve genuinely, but just by being in a group and being from having a servant heart and stepping up, you're going to get business. But one of the best things you can do is just be out there, be networking. Don't be a secret agent. Let everybody know you're an agent. And let them know by making it about them, asking about what they do, talking about them. And then eventually they're going to ask you what you do. Then you get your chance to talk. And, it's not like you came at them, you were about them. So, let's talk real quick about open houses. We touched on a lot of things about open houses, but doing an open house, a little bit like anything, it's adding value and not just looking as, okay, I got an open house, I got to go put out those signs. By the way, I hated putting out signs, but I looked at all those signs as a freaking dollar sign. This is pointing money in my direction. Every time I put one of those up, I made a game of it. They're pointing money in my direction. And I want as many people to go through that open house as I can. And there were days where I'd take work with me, and I enjoyed the quiet days too, because I got a lot done. But you've heard Monica say that she would have things of value to give out. Anybody else want to add to and she would also door knock and invite the neighbors to the open house. Why would you invite the neighbors to the open house, Monica?
Because neighbors are nosy, number one, and number two, they want to have friends and family that they like in their community. Bottom line, they can pick their neighbors. So I always invited them, and I would literally say, hey, look, we want you to be the nosy neighbor, come through, and they were like, oh, they loved it. It works really well.
It does.
And I bet you get a lot of people there too, because they want to go, I wonder what Joyce's house looks like.
They're going to come.
You never know when they're going to need someone to sell their house.
That's what I was looking for right there. You don't. And you know what? How many times have they seen open houses in their neighborhood and somebody's knocked on their door and invited them to it? When you can stand out, have snacks, have waters, have things. I never had a sign-up book. A lot of people have a sign-up book and ask people to sign in. That's a personal choice. I had a different way of doing it, but everybody has their own way. So there's sign-up books. There's making sure you have the listings around, locally. The other thing is too, by the way, I guarantee, especially if it's the first open house, even if you don't invite the neighbors, you're going to get some neighbors through. And what you always want to do, put some prep time into an open house. Make sure you study what's going on in that neighborhood, because I know, for me, I know the market as a whole, and I can talk statistics and data and the market all day. But you know what? When you go to do an open house, you know what that neighbor knows?
the neighborhood.
Everything that's happened in that neighborhood, every house that's sold, everything about it. So when you can talk intelligently to them, because they're going to say, oh yeah, this is like da, 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 and that house down the street, and you're like, yep, the one with, you know, the pool or this or that, and you know, that goes a long ways. You guys spend some time, you know, again, it's honing your craft, it's doing your homework, it's studying and you know, showing up, like showing up. It's showtime. When you go to an open house, it's showtime. You got to be on. Anything else on open houses?
I had a good idea, which I'm sure you veterans already know this, but from a lender was to, for instance, most people do open houses on the weekend, right? And so to do like a neighborhood thing, maybe like exclusively because you got the nosy ones, exclusively for them. Like say Friday night, you're going to do a twilight and you invite just the neighbors and you have food and you kind of like stir the pot with the neighbors. And then you do the public or whatever and just make them feel special, especially if you're trying to get potential more listings from that neighborhood. Because then now you've kind of giving yourself an opportunity that they may not be buying, but they may know somebody that wants to come to the neighborhood or they want to get out. And now you've had a time to just kind of connect with just the neighbors. So I thought that was an interesting idea. You know, even if it was like a 1 hour popcorn swing by, you know, thanks for popping by. And Gina Marie made some cute pop by popcorn things that you could give out and stick them on that Costco popcorn to pass out. It's a really cute idea.
You know what? Great point. And by the way, you know, doing different is better than trying to be better. Different is better. Different beats better all the time. Like, how do you set yourself apart? Do different. Break the rules. You know, I've done Thursday night open houses, Friday night open houses, invite only. On the weekends, I would usually do 12 to 3 or 3 to 6 or something different. I mean, you're missing a little bit of the crowd, but you're gaining. I always found doing like 12 to 4 was like the best because you're getting the open house people coming out specifically, but when you do it early, you're grabbing a lot of those because people are trying to get to a lot of open houses sometimes and they can't make it to all of them, but they're out there a little bit earlier than 1 o'clock waiting. So that was always a good key. I used to get a lot of extra traffic and I noticed that because a lot of times at 1 o'clock I'd have people waiting to get in and waiting for me. It's like, ah, crap. And by the way, another little trick to an open house, you guys, you know, don't be afraid to spend some money. Order personalized open house signs. And by the way, I think next week or beginning of next month, we'll have out the whole program of all the different styles and how you can design them within everything we need with color codes and how they're designed. But you can get your picture on there and put those signs out in the morning. And then put a little rider on top of the sign that says open 12 to 3 or 1 to 4, whatever your hours are. So that way when people get to the house, like if somebody's driving and sees the signs, they get to the house, it's not like, joke's on you. It's like, oh, I'll come back at this time. It's telling them when it is. But it's getting a little extra exposure, having your signs out there and your picture out there. Just FYI. Yeah, you know, social media, we all kind of know social media should be, I mean, there's all kinds of different, I don't really look at social media as a main way. I just look at it as part of life. We do it. It's not like one of my pick 3, but I mean, some people it is, and it can be, you know, and I know, I'm sure we could debate this I'm sure we could talk about this one for a long time as far as like personal page versus business page. You know, and what's the ratio of personal to business? You know, one thing that I see Melissa do is she does a lot of postings engaging people. What do you think about this or this color or that color, or, you know, things like that. It's really about engagement, you know, and having fun. Monica does, you know, her open house shenanigans. I mean, that people have fun with that. And then you're staying top of mind without being like, hey, look at me, I'm #1 this month, or hey, look at me, I just sold another house. People don't really give a shit about that. I mean, they do, and you should put that out there. it just shouldn't be all you put out there, right? I mean, that should be, you gotta keep it real, keep it fun, keep it lighthearted, and engagement.
I kind of like to play it on, like you guys always said, everybody likes to talk about real estate whenever you go to a party with you because they know you've been doing it for so long. Well, I'm new girl on the block still, and so just kind of showing value is kind of how I look at social media, trying to show like it's not just glamour, it's not just showing, selling sunset over here. And then I also like to look at it as they think they know it all, so why don't you have fun with it? I'll do a video and go, so what do you think this one's going to sell for? What do just to kind of make it fun and engaging, because none of us really ever know. We're all guessing what it's going to go for. So it's just fun to kind of make it interactive, and even if they don't respond, you can see how many people are actually looking and watching. And I think it was Misty yesterday at the office. She's like, I had people that told me they didn't even know that I was still doing real estate. So it just gives you an opportunity to stay on top of mind with your database. So I agree with you, Wes. I don't think it's like one of the three. I think it kind of falls under the category of one of the three.
Yep, agreed. I think it falls under part of your database, but yeah.
I would imagine that one of the hardest things for a real estate agent is to see like a neighbor or a friend list their house with somebody else. That's got to be like a suck in the gut.
It's a gut punch for sure. And if you've been in this business long enough, it's happened to you. And if it hasn't, you haven't been in this long enough, or you haven't been working hard enough, or you're not a full-time agent. I don't know, man, because it's gonna happen. And it does. It sucks. I never minded as long as I got the opportunity to present. Well, I minded a little bit, but it's if I got the opportunity to at least get in front of them and pitch it, then I'm a little better with it than driving down, pulling up to my house and going, what the heck? I didn't even know they were selling. Never even got the chance. Never even got my foot in the door. That makes me angry. But at the same time, I'm not angry at them. I'm angry at me and looking in the mirror. What could I have done better? What did I do wrong? How can I improve? How can I make sure that doesn't happen again? And step up my game.
What do you think about working your database? Another thing, working your database after you've sold the house, following up with them. I heard of a situation where somebody sold a house and kind of just lost contact, and then found out that they sold a house, they bought another house for their son and another house for their daughter, just because there wasn't a lot of follow-up afterwards, right?
Everybody knows you're talking about me, and that was my multi-million-dollar client. And yes, that happens. It's like if you don't have Zillow's easy. We don't need to talk about that. But database, I mean, do you have a plan? Do you have a follow-up plan for your clients, which is part of your database? They should go into your database. There should be all kinds of plans in your database for people who just moved in, a touch program for that people, and you should have it categorized to A's, B's, and C's. In my opinion, this is how I do it. A's are the ones who are using me, have used me, referred me. B's are the ones, they're warm, they get a Christmas card. I touch them. I should be touching them once a month. The A's maybe several times a month, or and then the C's maybe once a quarter. And always trying to move them up to that next category. But yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff happens, and that one knocked me for a loop. So my goal is to have a complete plan and somebody to work the plan, because I know I'm not going to do it, or I'm not going to get it done, to work my database intentionally with what I want done on, and to give me a list every week of who I need to be calling, what I need to be doing, who I need to be following up with, because that database is gold. And me not following up or keeping in touch, it cost me tens of thousands of dollars in a payday. So
I would love for, I kind of know what you do, Wes, but probably still you could touch on it, is even hear from Monica, is just what are the things or ideas on touching with your database, because typically they're spread all out. So you can't just do like an easy knock the neighborhood. And, you know, even for me, I struggle with the pop buys because they're so spread out that it just takes me too much time sometimes to do it. So I would love to hear some ideas on how you consistently touch on them versus just making phone calls.
So I use the MLS to my advantage all day, every day. I look at everything that comes on the market and everything that sells. And it is a guarantee that something is going to come up in one of my clients' neighborhoods. Invariably. It always happens. So on the MLS alone, I scan through all the inventory and then I'll shoot an email out to my client with that information. Hey, this one just listed in your neighborhood. I'll keep an eye out on it, you know, see what it ends up selling for, how you guys doing, blah, 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 blah. That gets responses from my clients a lot. They love that. They're also on HomeBot, so that's also giving them like a monthly touch. So once you set up HomeBot and that's already running for you, it gives them a monthly email so they can check their home value. And I think we've talked about that. So those are easy touches. And then of course, I mean, we have Chime and we should be able to have set up our follow-up plans and everything else. But honestly, I just try and keep in touch with my people. I do pop buys too, but I try not to complicate it. I try and keep it simple so I can keep on top of it.
So bringing up Chime actually has where you can set up market updates. So I used to use a system called Real Scout, and then I realized all the things that Chime could do. So I took all my people from Real Scout, stuck them in Chime. It does the same thing, and it's all in one place. It's not as in-depth as HomeBot, though, the market. It doesn't look as nice as the HomeBot, you know, with the black and the pink. HomeBot catches your eye. But Chime actually does it. You can send out a market update every month. You just stick it on there and it goes out to them. I figured that out yesterday.
Well, and Patrick, you know, we have this great system called Chime, and not enough people utilize it or take advantage of it. And Patrick is available Fridays at 11 on his channel to work through that, answer any questions, help anybody with that. I'm going to be having him help somebody get up, you know, train them on that so they can completely work my database or set it up. And actually there's not, you know, it's front heavy to get it set up. Kevin knows that. Melissa's shaking her head. But once it's done, it's pretty much plug and play, like super simple. Doesn't take a lot of time. So yeah, that's one thing. But yeah, database, you know, and then, but it's categorizing and then just kind of knowing what to do. We're going to do there's a database class coming up on how to work your database that I think is next month. I'll check the schedule and see what it is. And we can definitely talk a lot more about that. Although we are pushing our hour, man, you guys, what a great time with all of you. This is what I love, is when it's so interactive. I didn't think this class was going to be much more than about 30 minutes. And, you know, when everybody's adding value into everyone else, it makes for an awesome, very quick hour. So thank you all for being on this, and thanks for the participation in it. You need to tell everybody in the office, I don't know why you weren't on that class, because it was pretty awesome, and more people would have added more value, and that people can get value out of this. So tell everybody, get on here. And yeah, and just, you know what, by the way, speaking of getting on here, there's nothing wrong with taking the same class again and again and again. You know, we're going to do this. We're going to actually do all these classes every quarter. And back in the day, I had these seminars that I would go to twice a year. And every year it was interesting. It was the same stuff, but I loved going because every year I was in a different place. I picked up a couple different nuggets. I'd implement those nuggets. Then I'm in a different place next time I go, you know, and you know, I'll never forget standing up talking to the presenter, the main guy's company, and people all around him, and they're going like, so what new do you have for us this time? What, you know, there's got to be something new. And he literally looked at the people and said, have you mastered what I've been teaching all along or last time? Well, no, but you got to have something new. Like, have you mastered? His point was, there's no magic pill. it's really, it's basics. And you can go time and time again. You could take this or watch this time and time again. You're going to pick up a little different nugget every time, because you're going to be in a different place, a different season in your business, a different place in your business. So you guys don't ever stop learning, is really what I'm trying to say, I guess. So, and Melissa, you've actually been here for a while, and I mean, you don't say you're a seasoned agent, but you're not brand new, right? And it's always good to see you still plugging in and knowing that there's still plenty to learn. So love that.
I think
Love
you
that growth
always
mindset.
have to learn. I
Yep.
mean, I was just telling someone, you and I were talking about the other day, that was considering getting into real estate. It's like, if you don't like to learn, or if you don't like challenges, if you want everything to be the same every single day, then don't do real estate. No, if you like change, you like challenge, you like things that you like to learn because it is constantly changing, then think about it, obviously. But there's a lot of avenues. If you expect a paycheck consistently in the beginning, just there's a lot of things that you have to weigh out depending on your lifestyle and your expectations. So I love learning, but you can also get in the rut of always learning and not implementing. So that's where he was saying about, have you mastered what I taught you before? Because otherwise you're just here to be a sponge, and then you squeeze the sponge out and it's all gone.
When I met Gina Marie, I was like traveling all the time, monthly. I was going to conferences, seminars all the time. So much so that I was like on overload all the time and never implementing. And when COVID hit, man, what a great thing. And my business went through the roof. Why? Because I finally could take and implement everything I was learning. So now I know better, like go to a conference maybe once a quarter or once every 6 months, and take back what you learn and implement it. If you're just I was like on overload all the time, but I wanted more. It was like addicting. Anyway, you guys, we are at an hour. Thank you.
The great thing about what you guys are doing between you and Patrick and Monica, you don't have to go away to a conference. It's every week you guys are just in small doses giving information and self-development. Yeah.
Well, I thank you. That's your leadership team at its best. So with that, small doses, 1 hour for these things. Thank you everybody for taking the time and being on here and taking an hour out of your day. I super appreciate it, and we will see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Ready?